Hello, welcome to Vibes with Mylaw. This is Mojoyin, and in the studio today we have with me not my regular gang. I told you I'm going to be spicing things up. So today we have Kunle as usual, we have Hosanna as usual, but we have a pretty woman here.
Hey.
You know when I say pretty woman,
Hey.
I have a pretty woman in the house today. I have Kiadum Mwako. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Pretty
good.
close.
Welcome to the studio, Kiadum.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Thank
Kiadum.
you for having me.
I'm glad to have you. At least I'm not the only woman in the studio. You know, these people, I don't know. This energy they give me. So welcome today. We're going to be discussing an interesting topic. We always we discuss interesting topic every time anyways. But today we're going to be discussing what it's like for young professionals, young employed professionals. So the topic is what I signed up for versus what I do. The convention is when you're being employed into paid engagement, you are given a letter of employment, am I right?
Yep.
And that states what's expected of you. Or even your job, basically job title, your job roles, everything expected of you. And then you resume and you start and you realize, okay, there's more to what I'm doing than I was told I'll be doing. And there's a conundrum there. So I would like to discuss what we think about this, and we'll be discussing what our attitude should be towards this situation. Where should we draw the line? What should we do basically? So I'm going to start with the whole concept of is this a reality? Is this something that you've seen before or you've been through before? Kunle, can I start with you?
Yeah, I think everybody goes through it wherever we work and stuff.
Have you gone through it? Is it something you've been through? Is it something you
That's
are
what
going through?
I feel like everybody.
So I would like to actually hear from you. So tell me about your experience.
I feel like everybody goes through the same thing. Like you get employed, you're given particular hours, and that's not the reality. But I mean, I guess it's so much the norm that it's not doesn't seem like it's any much of a big deal to most people.
Okay.
It's basically it's like when you get an employment offer and you accept it. It's almost like you're saying like, okay, so you care about the company, and so when there are situations where you might have to go the extra mile for the company, those are the times that you get overtime. And yeah, it's why when we face situations where maybe we're supposed to close by 5, and then for like the entire week you've closed like 10. It's that mentality that allows us not to really challenge the idea of what's exactly, and you don't get paid for overtime. I don't think I've ever heard anybody anywhere in Nigeria that works beyond their time and gets paid for overtime. It might happen. I've never heard it. Especially in our practice.
Some people do actually.
In our practice, I don't think I've ever heard anything like that. That I slept over at the office, but I'll get paid overtime. I've never heard about it, but I mean.
I think that has to do with more of our own laws and implementation of our laws.
Aside that too, when you talk about being paid overtime, that is more obtainable where the person is earning wages as opposed to a salary. So yes, so obviously outside the shores of this country where you have the option to, most employers in Nigeria, they always go for salaried employment as opposed to wages. But outside the country, even some good jobs, not like it's a blue collar job or a menial job or whatever, actual white collar jobs, they're also paid wages, so you're paid per hour of your work. So in a case where you're working overtime, you're getting paid for that extra time that you're putting in. Or maybe if you're working during certain periods like Christmas period, Easter, you're probably paid double your actual salary, because you're not supposed to be working that period.
Of those that listen to us, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you help us with the difference between wage and salaried employment?
So, salaried employment is where, for when you're giving your what's it called now? You're giving your remuneration. You're paid. Or actually, no, I meant to say when you're giving your employment letter.
Okay.
So when they are breaking down what you're going to be paid at the end of the month, most times they would tell you, okay, they break down the basic. Your basic allowance is this. Your this is that. Your this is that, which would now compute to what you'll be paid maybe annually, and then they now divide it per month. Whereas wages, there's a particular amount that is allocated to you per hour of your work. So I don't know where they would apply each. I don't know like the basis by which they would pick which to apply. But outside of this country, I think you actually have the opportunity to pick which you want, if it's a salaried employment or if you would be paid wages. So yeah.
Interesting. So Hosanna, tell me, is this your reality as well?
Is it a reality? Well, it definitely is a reality. But I think where the difference comes in is, Kunle talked about a passion for the job, and wanting to go the extra mile just because. But I think there is a distinction. I think that's where the conversation is to be had. The difference is in, the attitude, first of all, of the employee to those times when they have to do more than they were ordinarily engaged to do, and the employer. Because you find out that, let's assume we didn't have a passion for the job. In our climb, how much of a choice do you really have? Mm-hmm. Because, the alternative is, you're out of a job and there's someone, the next person out the door is waiting to do 3 times what you're doing for half what you're getting. Exactly. So there is a fine line. Whatever it is that you get into, that you start doing, there is always going to be that person who has a little more desire for it, who is willing to put in a little more of themselves, and really that is the way to mastery. There is no field that you will rise to the top by doing 9 to 5 stricto sensu. But the difference now is, the attitude of the employer to that. In Nigeria, it's more often it is exploitative because the employee doesn't have much of a choice, and there are ways to deal with such instances. And if we are giving examples later on, I can talk about my workplace. You may not get paid overtime, but employers that are sensitive to the welfare of employees know how to compensate and compensate you for it.
So Kiadum, you want to say something? Your reality?
I would agree with Hosanna and Kunle. It's actually a reality in this part of the world, whether we want to agree to it or not. But if you ask most of us, what was your work? What are your work hours? We say it's 9 to 5, but actually it's 5 to 9. Because you come in really early, you leave late, and it's almost expected because the job has to be done. You can't pick up your bag and say, oh, you're leaving at a certain time because it's 5 o'clock, so I have to leave. There are people that do it, but you do it and you be getting the side eye. you be getting the side eye like, okay. You don't want to go above and beyond where you have to. I know there are times where it might seem like Hosanna said, it might be exploitative by some of the employers, but I feel like as employees as well, we should also be willing sometimes to go that extra mile, to put in the work, to put in the effort to see that a task is completed, even if it might require us to spend some extra hours than you would ordinarily need to spend. It also shows how much you enjoy what you're doing, the passion for the job. And also borrowing from what Hosanna said, if you decide not to do it and you're out the door, trust me, there's some people, long lines of people waiting to, replace you for half your pay or quarter or whatever. So, the choice is yours, really.
Great. So now, being an employer in this reality, so how do you think one should act? At what point, what should be you said it that you can choose to do it, and you can choose to do it or not. You can decide that I would sit down and do the work. What do you think should apply? I mean, if I'm leaving by 5 because my employment is 9 to 5, am I not coming back the following day to continue what I didn't finish?
Yes, you are, but obviously there's like an exception to every rule. There are times where you might actually need to stay past that 5. So you can't say because my employment contract said that my work hours are 9 to 5. This work that is due today, that the client is expecting today, I can't deliver because it's 5 o'clock and I have to leave. Exactly. There are timelines attached to these things, and there are times, sometimes you can have a timeline or a deadline for Thursday. As at Wednesday, the client is already on your, what am I saying, Wednesday? As at Tuesday, the client is on your neck. When can we get this? We need this ASAP. We need this like yesterday, So are you trying to tell me that because your employment contract says 9 to 5, you will leave that work and just walk out the door? You might lose that client.
Yes.
So you have to weigh your options. You have to weigh what are your priorities. Would you rather leave early and lose that client, and then that's like how much that you've lost, because that client can be a repeat client that will bring more work to the firm, hence generating more income. So I think it's just there are times where you have to go
above
and
variation
beyond.
to this as well. So now we've spoken about the reality of what all this we have said is that is what you are employed to do. It's just that you might need more time. You might want to stay a few hours. What situations whereby there's a demand on an additional skill or an additional task that you were not employed for? Say you were employed as a legal practitioner, and then they are coming and saying, okay, you're going to have to do a little bit of marketing for us. You're going to have to do a little bit of this for us. And they are requiring you to do something, 1, you did not study for, 2, you did not sign up for. And it's all still to the end of to help our business, to help.
That line of seems to have piqued your interest.
And the reason for this is because
your reality.
Businesses are evolving. The way services are being rendered are evolving, and a lot of people, you need to be innovative in the way and manner you render services. So a lot of employers just want to bootstrap and use the existing resources they have. So in that situation, how do you handle that? Kunle, you have something, you seem interested in that side or aspect of it.
I mean, well, if in situations like that, I think a lot of things are, we can't apply one particular I don't know, rule or idea to like every situation. There are situations where what you're talking about is done right. For example, if you're working somewhere and you're like maybe you're doing work A and maybe they now fire person doing work B, and then they don't employ someone to fill in the shoes of the person doing work B. You're not doing work A and B for the same pay. Yeah, that might feel wrong and stuff, and most probably is, right? But the fact is that part of the relevant part of the job market is that, like, whatever you're doing, like, you're learning and you're progressing in, like, your portfolio and what you're capable of. So mostly in such situations, you're learning stuff that would most likely be useful for you later. So now you're the person that does work A and B. And so maybe if you look at it from that aspect, you might be able to come to terms with it. But I mean, so it's like the way it's done, it's the way a manner is done, because for where I am, situations like that are usually opportunity. When it happens, it's usually a positive thing as much as opposed to being a negative thing. But I can also sympathize with situations where it can be extremely annoying and feel it's pressure, and people might not be able to deal with that. But so, like I said, it depends on the situation.
Hosanna, you have something you want to say?
Okay, so yeah, there are a couple of things, and I hope I remember all of them, and they tie into each other. First of all, if you were listening closely when Kiadum was talking, the language she was using is one of ownership. And what do I mean by this? It's something my boss normally says. If you see yourself as an employee, there are certain nuances to the business that you're not likely to account for. Kiadum was saying the client is on your neck, you will lose that client. But it is very possible that it's not her client, it's the firm's client, and she's just working her job as a lawyer. But the idea,
firm is your firm.
Yes, but you see, people don't make people make a distinction between, it's not my business. The employee doesn't care, the typical employee doesn't care which client is angry or which client is not happy, as much as the owner, the principal, the partners in the business care. Because whether I do my job well today or not, I'm still going to get paid. But when you're an owner, every single thing you do has consequences and repercussions. So owning the business is one bit of it. Then when Kunle, talked about taking on multiple responsibilities, I was employed for this, but I'm doing this one on another person's own. Yes, while it can be good to do that, and this is where you would know the difference between the exploitative employers and those who actually notice your effort and appreciate it. At a point, maybe not right off the bat, but at a point, these exist in the corporate world. You can ask for a review of your salary. You can say, okay, this is the much that I'm doing, and this is the much that it is taking, from my time and my energy and my resources. I feel like it's a good place for us to have a conversation about, what other benefits I can get. And any employer who sees your input and knows that, yes, this person is onto something, can't have you leaving that conversation feeling like, no, do it. If not, I'm not going to, because they would be losing an asset. So there's all these things, and you can talk about it. You can ask for your due.
Yeah, so there's a place of having a conversation in those kind of situations.
You can ask for your due, definitely.
Exactly, which I think people. What you have something to say?
Yeah. So riding off the back of the points that they have made, Kunle and Hosanna, I'll also say I think Kunle made that point. So when those kind of, I would like to call them opportunities, present themselves. So maybe areas that you're not ordinarily familiar with, it's not your discipline, it's not what you studied, but maybe you have to step into that role to carry out that, service, or, make sure that that task is covered or carried out. You have to be willing to apply yourself. You have to be willing to try to see to it that you can complete that task. So it's not, you just don't be complacent or lackadaisical, just I can't do it. It's not law related.
It's an opportunity to build capacity in an area that you hitherto did not have.
Absolutely.
And you can get paid for it.
I would not trying to say a graphics designer or anything, but before no, it's very far from that. Very far from that. But before joining the firm, what was my business with designing graphics or whatever, but because of the other added responsibilities that were placed on my table or that were given to me, I had to try to fit into that role. I had to try to see how I could apply myself to come up with maybe graphics or whatever we might need to put up on our social media and all of that. So along the line I was learning, and then as others were joining the team, I was like, okay, you guys, it's not just a me thing. Let us all learn how to do this so that if I leave, you're here to do it. Even if I don't leave, why do I have to do it? I might have other things that I'm attending to, so you might want to know how to do it. So it's just a case of wanting to actually learn and see how you can apply yourself in that role. If it's a case of it's bigger than you've tried, and then that's a different conversation. Yes. So I think it's a matter of perspective. How does the employee see that challenge that has come? Is it an opportunity, or is it just a challenge, a roadblock that you cannot cross over? So you have to look at that, and then when you actually apply yourself, that's when now that conversation that Hosanna brought up now comes in. When you see that you're actually delivering in that field, then you can say, okay, I feel like I fit into this role, I fit into this role, I fit into that role. I'm doing multiple things, so I feel like at least there should be an upward review. You with your full chest can go and have that conversation with your. But when you're not, where is the what are you coming to discuss? So I think that
from what you guys have said, I think there are two perspectives to this.
Yes,
there's the
absolutely.
exploitative employer, and there's the employer that just gives you challenges to help yourself. Now, there's also another part to it that says you, the employee, understands that this is an opportunity or this is a roadblock. So it really depends on how you see it. And even when you have an exploitative employer, you can decide to be somebody that sees opportunity.
Yes, even then.
Because I feel personally, I feel like every challenge I get is an opportunity for me to upskill.
Of course.
I might decide to just move away from what I generally
If you're building
studied.
capacity, that's
Exactly.
the thing.
So
You're
the moment I
learning.
leave you, I should be able to leave this organization better than I came in. I should have added a lot of things. I should have surmounted a lot of hurdles and be confident in the fact that I can learn anything and master anything. And I can request that I be paid for the mastery that I've learned over time.
Of course.
So really, it's a perspective thing. I think we all agree to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So, now that we've agreed on that, in situations whereby you took the challenge with a good perspective, and you have done the work. Now you walk up to your employer with the chests and said, "I've done this. I'm doing this," and you request for, "Okay, I need an upskill," and you are shocked by the response, and the response is not favorable. As a matter of fact, it became a serious issue. How do you deal with that? I mean, where do you draw the line? What happens afterwards?
Okay, who wants to start?
Hosanna starts.
Who wants to start?
So yes, of course, when you've built the capacity, then one of two things can happen. There's nobody who has a set of skills who will not have an opportunity to use them. And what it does for you is, you're a lawyer, then you've added design to it. You've added marketing, you've added publicity, you've added strategy, all of these things, to your portfolio. If you have an employer that does not appreciate that value that you bring to the table, and they are some of them can be diplomatic, let's have this conversation again at the end of the month, let's have a post a couple of more months, 2 months, couple of months. Some are actually serious. Oh yes, so you make a valid point, this is how we are going to do it. By the end of so and so point, we are going to, and some may even outright just tell you of that, please, are you not benefiting from it? Yes, you may not be able to up and leave, because there aren't that many opportunities out there. But what you can be sure of is that the opportunity will come, and the next one that comes, you'll be much better for it, because somebody is going to recognize what your exploitative employer has failed to recognize, and that person is going to be willing to pay you what you are worth, the value of what it is that you do. And it's a good time to start looking out, use your lunch break to go for interview. I did say it too. Always, as lawyers, the first they tell us, always have an exit strategy, always have a back door. So yeah.
Like say anything, Kunle, is there anything you want to add to that? Nah, you don't have anything to add to that. Okay.
I think Hosanna has finished.
Yes, solved the problem.
So that's what people are thinking.
So I agree with Hosanna, to be honest, because now you are better. I mean, it means you are. The first thing is that you are aware of your value. That's I think that's a very important factor.
I think what I'll add to that is that now your employer knows that you know your value.
Exactly. So that's what I was going. So your employer knows So it's now a question of, are you going to recognize it or risk losing that value? I mean, it's easier to work with somebody that's always working with you than to onboard somebody from the beginning. I mean, it's usually tedious, and I think it's.
I mean, good luck finding someone who is going to fit into the 5 roles.
At the same time. I mean, it's rare.
I mean, but the employer can decide to say, it didn't fit in if I made you fit in. I'll just give it to another person.
So it's starting all over again. It's not easy to start over. I mean, it's not easy to start over.
I'm not in support.
And not everybody will have. Not everybody will have your
I'm just saying.
He may need to employ 4 people before he will find the next Kunle that will do what you were doing.
So
Well, yeah, I agree, but I mean, we also need to talk about the fact that when you have like a demand or in regards to your work rate or some stuff like that, the mentality that, oh, if I live here, there are many people out the door, a lot of people are unemployed, they would come in, they would just get someone that would do the work cheaper. I think that's a very problematic mentality for people to have, because I mean, you can always look back, but you can look ahead. You can also say there are people that are doing this stuff for better pay somewhere else. Do you understand? And I think we need to, because I know you spoke about the part where we're like, somebody also, like, we need to be able to, you can't just conclude that you keep doing the work. Cause
that's the beginning.
Yes, I think
so
at that point.
The distinction is that the first person knows nothing. You're fresh out of law school, and you're here complaining. You already have the new Lewaku mentality. I can't kill myself. This is not what they employed me for. As opposed to somebody who has spent 3 years, in the job and has command over a wide array of skills that they did not. What that does, it raises your bargaining power. So now you can walk out the door and they will miss you. As opposed to you just came in, please.
Absolutely.
So that's the.
So before you get
that
the
one person that
Lewaku,
stayed for about 3-4 years, the person leaves. For them to get another person or set of people to fill, they will need another like 4-5 people to fit into the role of that one person to carry out all the tasks, duties, roles, blah blah blah.
Spend another 3-4 years.
Exactly. So I think what we've been able to agree on here is start. Even though you don't know anything, start with that mentality. Do what you need to do what you have to do. Take every opportunity you get. Upskill, get that value, become valuable, become indispensable, so that when you request for what you deserve, you're able to have the conversation. You have a bargaining power, as Hosanna said, and it's easier to have this conversation. And if your value is not appreciated, you can. Your exit strategy is available. And also, Kiadum also mentioned something that as you're upscaling, don't do it yourself. So she said something about also helping people around you. So you came in, you didn't know anything. Other people are coming behind you. It's also, I think it's important that you help people coming to also realize that, you need to apply yourself. You don't just because, this needs to be done, since I can do it, I'll do it myself. There's a place of you also helping people coming behind you to be able to become valuable. I think at the end of the day, it increases the capacity of everybody. It makes your job easier, one. It increases the reputation of your profession. So everybody know that you are well read. You see, so people understand a wide array of things, and so they can deal with a lot of things. I think at the end of the day, it's good for everybody.
I think Kunle wants to add
Yeah, Kunle.
Yeah, I was going to say that's great advice, but there are also situations where, like I said, you can't apply one solution to a problem that comes in different forms. Like not one rule apply everywhere. So there are situations where it's done really terribly. You understand? I mean, a lot of us go into practice like after school, after we're done with law school, and then you come out and law school doesn't exactly train you the right way, like for the reality out there, and so you feel a lot of us not being like we're not exactly perfect at what we're going to start doing. Like we're going to learn the ropes, we're going to make a lot of mistakes. And then I hear a lot of my friends complaining. I had a friend that cried, full-grown man, like based on the way the boss came down on him, like he was shedding tears, and there's a full-grown man. And so in situations like that where it is really bad, it's not done right. Like for your mental health, just don't stay. That's like my own advice. You understand? So like some bosses can say, and if this statement that we made now, it can easily be the weapon of an employer. Like, I'll get someone tomorrow that will do this thing for you. You understand? And then it's really, really bad. I think in situations like that where it's really terrible, the advice is not because you're going to learn more. Your mental health is more important than anything. Just up and leave. In situations like that, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I see your point, and I agree with you. But at the same time, I feel like the world is not a bed of roses, and we are all not made. We're all not made the same. But I feel like once you enter into the corporate sector, a lot of wolves out there. So you also need to toughen up. I mean, I think because
develop thick skin.
It's not yet what.
Develop thick skin, huh?
Yes, develop thick skin, emotional intelligence. Because trust me, I think I've heard of somebody that the first place where she worked was terrible. I mean, I think she served there, and afterwards she could not just manage to get a job. I've had people who have worked in terrible places but cannot work with somebody anymore because of the trauma they've been through. It has seriously affected their morale, their desire to do anything whatsoever, and so they cannot even work. They're trying to do business, but they're not cut out for business. I mean, it is what it is. Some people are not just cut out for business. So I think it's also in our place to, when we get to that situation, when we get to that level, when we have people under us, people that we are responsible for, we need
know how to treat them.
Exactly. Try to be intelligent in the way you relate with people, because people are different. You might think you're having the old tough love mentality and all that, but you could be doing irreparable damage on an individual unknowingly. I thank you very much for that, Kunle. That's a quite important point to make. Do you have anything you want to share? Anything you like us to also point out before we go?
Just final remarks on the conversation.
Yeah, final remarks
to
on the
round it off.
I mean, in as much as the employee might be willing to, go the extra mile to make sure that the job is done, or to apply themselves in whatever role that they might have been assigned, it's also important that the employers do not use this as an opportunity to exploit this, either fresh out of the university or law school or whatever students or recruits that they get. So let's all let's deal, what's the word I'm looking for now, let's deal in good faith. Exactly. So that's it.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Kiadum.
And I have experienced such good faith. Times when I would work with my boss till late. Sometimes they'll take me home. Sometimes get you lunch. So all these small things, know that what you're doing is appreciated. Not necessarily a big salary.
So they basically buy you over.
And so my final,
those little things actually count.
They matter. And so my final comment would be, and interesting, the Bible gives very good life advice. It's 2 Bible verses that just came to mind. One is, whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. And when you do that, you become this. That's the next one. Find you a man diligent in his work. He will stand before kings and not mean men. So when you do it with all your might, you become a man diligent in his work, or a woman diligent in her work. And if your current boss is a mean man, Bible have said that you will no longer stand before the kings will come and look for you. So good luck in your professional endeavors, everybody.
And I also think that whatever you're doing, whatever your hands find doing, do it as unto God. You're taking me to the spiritual level.
Wow.
As unto the Lord, because you're doing it for God. You're doing it because you have been given that to do, and you will do it to the best of your abilities, irrespective of who you are doing it for or how you are doing. Irrespective of the environment, you need to do it, and you're going to do it.
You are so creative. We don't come.
Any last words?
Christian podcast, bro.
Yeah, we really should start a Christian podcast. We'll be sharing Rema.
But this is not a Christian podcast. I'm not saying. But yeah, I really don't have much to add to it. Really, no, there's not much to add to it. I feel like we've covered all the bases. Really, I feel like one thing that inspires the motivation of the employee is the sense of, I don't know, it's like coming off what she had said, like when you see it as your own, what do I call it, as your own company too. So it's like when you don't have that sense of, like people usually say stuff like, if I die tomorrow, this company will continue. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like even if half the time, even if the boss dies, the company self will still continue. Do you understand? So, but like, do you understand? So, it's coming off that mentality that those are things that drive the motivation of the employee. And I think the difference in situations where that motivation doesn't exist is really on the approach of the employer. Right? There's the way the employer would manage his employees. That would give them the sense of self, like we are all in this together, as opposed to this is my thing. I'm employing you to push my thing. Do you understand? I think like those nuances go a long way matching how the employee approaches. So yeah.
So thanks, guys, for a wonderful discussion. We've agreed and we've said whatever opportunities you get, the right mentality. Also ensure that when you do find yourself in those kind of situations, you also treat your employees appropriately, please. It's quite important. Also, organizations should try to ensure that people take ownership of the organization. It's their company thing, take ownership, ensure that you have a team and not just people working towards different goals and all that. So we do hope that we've been able to discuss important salient issues today, and somebody has learned something and somebody is doing something different.
I've learned something today as well.
That's the important thing. So upskill, take opportunities, learn, create value, request for what you are due, and when you're not, do what you're supposed to do, be due diligence, in good faith, knowing that you are valuable and nobody can put you down. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Kiadum, for joining us today. Thank you, Hosanna, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kunle. Thank you to our technical team.
/DG.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody that joined us. Thanks for listening. I remain Mojoyin, and this is Vibes with Mylaw. Bye.